Welcome to the FL Community Podcast, created for the community by the community, where we discuss living with follicular lymphoma with a particular focus on thriving beyond diagnosis both physically and mentally. The following podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. Please speak with your doctor before making any health decisions.
Hi everyone, welcome to the FL Community Podcast, and this our first episode, which is going to be focused around initial diagnosis. We're going to introduce ourselves and then the podcast, and dive into our own diagnosis stories, and tell you about what it felt like, what helped, what didn't, and what came next. And whether you are newly diagnosed or supporting someone with FL, we really hope that you'll find connection and comfort in our experiences.
Great. Thank you, Paul. And I'm going to start off with introducing myself. So, hi, if you don't know me, I'm Nicky Greenhouse. I am a clinical nutritionist specialising in oncology nutrition. I was diagnosed with stage 4 follicular lymphoma in 2014 when I was 32. I have 2 kids, husband. I live in Western Australia in a small town called Mandurah, a beautiful little waterside town. So a few years after I was diagnosed, I was really struggling with my mental health and felt I needed to connect with people. So that's when I started the Living with Follicular Lymphoma community. And I'm very excited to say that we've just hit 14,000 members just today. So that's
Amazing.
really exciting. It just means that there's more of us connecting and, we're stronger in numbers. So let's build those numbers and see what we can do about finding a cure and supporting each other and educating each other. So that's what I'm passionate about and that's what I'm here for. So I'm excited to get the podcast going.
That's amazing. Thank you, Nicky. Yeah. How about you, Nicola?
Yeah, thank you, Paul, and thank you, Nicky. So I'm Nicola. I'm 48. I'm from the UK, live in England. I was diagnosed 7 years ago. Been on watching weight ever since, never had treatment. I'm a gardener and I'm training to be a garden designer.
Very exciting.
So this, it was about a year after my diagnosis. I just wanted to connect like Nicky, and that's when I found the group, and it's gone from strength to strength since.
Thanks, Nicola. And my name's Paul. You'll see that I'm down as Dr. Paul. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm living in Spain at the moment with my husband. I was diagnosed in 2017, age 35. I've just completed a treatment, which I'll be talking about at some point, maybe in future episodes. But yeah, like you, Nicola, I found the podcast, and it was amazing to find a family of people who knew exactly what I was going through. It was 2 years after diagnosis I found it, so I wish I'd found it sooner, but it's been a wonderful experience to be one of the moderators. Nicky's the founder, but we're all moderating the group together, which has brought us together, and hence we're starting this podcast to hopefully connect more of us. But yeah, really excited and happy to be here with you all.
Yeah, and look, I just want to say how grateful I am of the work that you guys have put in over the years. I was just trying to think before, how long have you both been moderators for?
Oh, that's a question.
Yeah, I think probably a good 6-7 years, wouldn't it be? So it was,
it must be. About 6 years it was. Yeah, because I was diagnosed 7 years. So yeah, it must be about 6 years.
Wow, a long time.
It is.
And I've got to say, we make an excellent team along with Nicola Mendelsohn as well. So the 4 of us, we all, keep each other accountable, and we all we've got our own little separate group that we share a lot about the community, and we talk things out, and and I'm just so appreciative of both you guys and Nicola Mendelsohn as well for your input into the community.
Yeah, thank you, Nicky.
Thank you.
And for creating this. I mean, it was incredible. Such a wonderful community. So, Nicky, do you want to talk about how this podcast came about? It's our first episode, and the listeners might be keen to hear the backstory.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been a long time coming. I think we've been talking about this for probably about a year, haven't we? And it's something that I've been thinking about for a while. It's, I think it will complement the Living with Follicular Lymphoma community quite well,
Mm.
and also help us interact and also, you know, let the community learn more about us.
Right.
You know, I mean, we all interact in the community. I mean, I often share things, but, you know, they don't really know who we are. So this is an opportunity for you guys to get to know us. And
I'm going to say, so what's the goal of this podcast? You know, from this first episode for people listening, like, why should they listen to us, do you think?
well, I think primarily we want to educate. I want to also be clear that, you know, we will talk about treatment, but we want to also, we're not experts, we're not doctors, we're not medical doctors. I mean, Dr. Paul is a doctor, but we're not medical doctors, so we can't advise on treatment or anything like that. So I want to make that really clear. But what we do want to talk about is what we are. You know, what we are experts in, and for, you know, we can talk about mental health, nutrition, and also, you know, and exercise and holistic
just living
living.
with this disease. We're experts in that, as all of the community is.
Yeah, and that's why I started the community in the first place, because I wanted to share our lifestyle tips and what are we doing to keep ourselves or give ourselves the best possible health outcome. So that's why, you know, I started the group in the first place. So, you know, so I feel it's only natural that we you know, go on and do a podcast and we can actually talk about it and really pinpoint what the community want to talk about. So that's why we highly encourage you to email theFLcommunitypodcast@gmail.com and tell us, what do you guys want to hear? What subjects and do you want to hear in the future? What questions have you got? Because we'll bring them up and we can discuss them. And I think
even if it's feedback for us, you know, in terms of, you know, because we're all new to doing this. This is I think our first podcast experience. And, you know, give us feedback. It's very welcome. And, you know, I think in terms of how it works, I think Nicky and I are the kind of main hosts, and Nicola here is our producer, our on-camera producer. And we'll have plenty of guests and, you know, other people coming in. So yeah, that's kind of who we are in the first episode.
Our main goal for this is to help educate, support, and also share resources. You know, we want to make sure that you guys have access to all the resources that you know, and we'll start plugging those things like the FLF and other charities and foundations that have got some resources there for us. So we want to make sure that everybody knows where to find those things. So that's what we're here for.
Shall we move on to our topic for the day?
Sure, sounds good. All right.
Our episode today is about initial diagnosis, which I don't know about you two, but it kind of fills me with kind of butterflies or, you know, a bit of anxiety, different feelings really, because it was such a pivotal time. And we're going to be introducing our stories individually. I don't know if you want to start with this, Nicky, or do you rather go second or third?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I have told this story quite a few times in, you know, various webinars. But, you know, we've got a lot of new members as well that may not know. So I was initially diagnosed in 2014. I was only 32 years old. I just had my youngest, my son, who's my youngest. I also have a daughter. And I just noticed a bunch of lumps on my neck. And I went to my GP and I said, "What's this about?" I didn't think much of it, to be honest. And he said, "Oh, we'll do a blood test and we'll see what happens." And I never heard from him again. And then 6 weeks later, I went back and I said, "Oh, I've still got these lumps." And that's when they said, "Okay, well, we better do something about this." And I went through some various testing. I did a ultrasound on my neck, a fine needle aspiration, and took a good probably month to 6 weeks to actually get the initial diagnosis. Yeah, and at the time there just wasn't much information around. I Googled, couldn't really find anything. I found out that the most common non-Hodgkin's was the diffuse large B cell, which is complete opposite to ours. That's curable but more aggressive, whereas follicular lymphoma is incurable but not as aggressive. So so it was just trying to understand and wrap my head around it was really difficult. But I wasn't, unlike you guys, I was put straight into treatment. So I didn't have the opportunity to go and watch and wait. But at the time, I was so grateful. I was great. Let's do something about this. And I had a year of treatment. But after the treatment, when I left hospital and they told me to go back to my normal life, that was the hardest for me. That's when my mental health took a spiral. And I spent the next 12 months just trying to get through each day. And I didn't realize how much it was actually affecting my kids. So when I realized it was, and I needed to do something about it, I sat down with my husband and I said, right, what are we going to do? And I just said to him, I feel like I need to connect with people with the same diagnosis. It was just a feeling. So we went hunting for Facebook groups and yeah, so it was almost 2 years since my initial diagnosis that we started the community. And I felt instant relief as people started coming in and I got to talk to people, even people in my own area. And I now we have a group, a regular group in my area that we
That's
meet
lovely.
regularly.
Yeah.
And I highly encourage others to do that. Find people in the community that are living near you. Because over the years, I've just found that great, and we're all very close now, and we have a lot of fun as well. It's not all doom and gloom, because we understand each other. So yeah, so for me, my initial diagnosis, even though it was almost 12 years ago now, I remember the shock. I remember the feeling I felt when I was told I had cancer. And until he said the word cancer, because I didn't know lymphoma was cancer, I asked, is this cancer? And he said yes. And that was when my punch in the face moment. So my at the time of initial diagnosis, as much as it was terrifying, particularly when I have such little kids, I felt an instant urge to fight. Like the word incurable wasn't good enough for me. So
Right.
I started researching, trying to find ways to help myself, what I could control, and to me that was my diet and lifestyle. So that was my focus.
I was going to
So
ask you just quickly, Nicky, when
sure.
you got those kind of words, the cancer, the lymphoma. I'm really fascinated how people respond to this as a therapist, particularly, but just generally. I'll talk about my story in a bit, but what did you do like immediately, like that day or that week? Like how did you cope with it, with your family, just general
Yeah,
routine?
no, it definitely wasn't. It was a major shock. I remember the doctor actually said to me on the phone to Google indolent.
Right.
And I see why he wanted me to do that, to sort of
Yeah.
pinpoint that it was slow growing. But I said that to my husband. I said to my husband, Craig, Google indolent. And he went off and Googled indolent. And I just sat there in shock, like, what's just happened? Because everything goes through your mind. I
Yeah.
didn't know much about cancer. All I could think of was, I'm going to lose my hair. Am I going to
Yeah.
survive?
Yeah.
What am I in for? I didn't know. So I was like a stunned mullet. And then my husband came back and he took my phone off me and said, you are not Googling
Yeah.
anything.
Wise.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and he started to become really upset. So I was concerned for him and I was trying to comfort him. And we instantly called his mum to come, and because she's got breast cancer, and so she came over. And when she got there, that's when I broke down and they were comforting me. And you just got to have that initial moment of just letting it out, letting yourself feel what you need to feel. It's
Yeah.
so important to let that out and surround yourself with the people who you trust the most to allow you to have those vulnerable feelings.
Wow. Do you think that your doctor handled it well? Because I hear different stories about some people that get, obviously it's never going to be great. It's terrible news. It's really difficult, but some doctors are much better at their bedside manner, whatever we want to call it, at giving this news, and others are just terrible at it. Like, what was your experience?
So that was my first hematologist.
Mm,
It wasn't a very good experience, to be honest,
no.
with him. But I'm very grateful for him to get me on the clinical trial that he did. It was the right decision for me, and I'm so grateful. And it's given me a very long remission, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. but his bedside manner wasn't the greatest. He was quite elderly, on the verge to retirement. So
Right.
very knowledgeable, and I appreciate that. But he wanted to do my bone marrow aspiration in his office, and
Wow.
I was proud to advocate for myself. I was not going to do that. I'd never had anything like that before. So I was like, no, I'm not doing it here. I'm going into the hospital. And I remember when I got to the hospital, they said, you can have this drug or medication or that you have to stay overnight in hospital, or you can have this one that's not as strong and go home tonight. And I said, no, I want the stronger one, but I have to go home and get my kids off to school in the morning. And I fought for that, even got my hematologist in the room, and I said, no, that's what I want. And they gave me that stronger drug.
Oh, well done. This is all so
And
much about advocating, right? And pushing for what we're not experts, or we've become experts, but we can get pushed around a bit. And it's great to hear you from the very beginning advocating for yourself.
I think it's following your
absolutely.
gut as well, isn't it?
Right,
I think when you
right.
know something, you have to, that's what you stand by and fight for, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You really need to advocate for yourself. And look, I know we trust our doctors and what our doctors are doing for us, and we appreciate that so much. But we also can't put everything into our doctors. There's also a lot of parts. We've got to look at this holistically. There's a lot of areas that we can take control of and
Right.
and look after as well. It's important to look after our health alongside of good conventional
Definitely.
treatment.
Yeah.
Mm.
Shall we move on, maybe to your story, Nicola, and then afterwards we can kind of talk more generally about initial diagnosis, maybe some similarities and differences, just so we've got our stories out there. Does that sound all right?
Definitely. So, as I said, I was diagnosed 7 years ago. And probably the year running up to it, I was in quite a stressful job. I wasn't looking after myself. I was doing too much. I'd just gone through a surgical menopause following a hysterectomy, and I was grieving my dad. He passed away from a brain tumor. So it wasn't great time in any way. And I remember having severe stomach pain that I'd never felt before. And I'd gone into work because it was the busiest week of the year at work. And I thought, I can't be off, got to go in. And I went in, and I just remember being doubled over at my desk and thinking, this isn't right. So managed to see my GP, and he kind of done a check of me and said, I think you've got appendicitis. You need to get to the hospital straight away. So I was like, phoned my mum, and we went over to the hospital, and they took all my stats, and straight away they got me a room, put me on drips, and they got a CT scan organised. So went down for that, came back thinking, oh, I'm going to have this operation, have my appendix out. It's like 6 weeks recovery. And I was kind of trying to work out how things would work time-wise in my mind. And the next morning, a doctor came into my room and said, we think you've got bowel cancer. We've seen a lesion in your bowel, and we're really concerned. So I got sent for, I can't remember the terminology, a camera to look at the inside of my bowel. And straight away the surgeon said, this isn't bowel cancer, this is a form of infected diverticulitis. So I was in hospital a couple more days on a drip to get rid of the infection, and was just sent home, having gone from appendicitis, bowel cancer, to it's just like a serious bowel infection. It just needs antibiotics. But I left that hospital thinking, thank goodness it's not a cancer diagnosis. Went home, carried on my antibiotics for about 4 days. And then I got a call out the blue from the hospital saying, we've re-looked at your CT scan and there's actually something on there we're not very happy with. So I had to go back in, and I think I had a load of blood tests, but I had the CT guided biopsy, which was obviously my lymph nodes in my stomach they were biopsying, and just went for a load of other tests, went for the bone marrow biopsy. And yeah, it took about 5-6 weeks for all this to go for tests. And I went to see my GP, and it was actually, he had the results of my biopsies and told me that it was follicular. And I remember sitting there, and I think during all my tests, I think I had a gut feeling it was going to be cancer. And I'd done a lot of crying, a lot of fearful waking at 3 a.m, like anxiety attacks. And this had been going on for about 5 or 6 weeks. And so I think when the GP told me it was cancer, it was kind of like I already knew. So I was kind of quite calm. And we were meant to fly to Spain 2 days after. And I remember saying, we're going to Spain in 2 days. And my doctor was like, I don't think you should fly, leave the country. We don't know what's going to happen from here. And I just remember going home and phoning people saying, it is cancer. And it wasn't until about 2 weeks later I had my oncology appointment, where they sort of had a meeting and discussed what they were going to do with me. And that's when they said, you're going to be on watch and wait. Because I initially went into that room saying, I've got cancer, I want it out of me. Can we do whatever we can to get it out of me? I don't want it. And I think being told to go and watch and wait was the hardest thing, because for me, I needed a plan. I needed to know that I had cancer. There was a plan in place, and I was going to get rid of cancer. And I think for me, I think that was the hardest part, to accept that it wasn't a traditional, you've got cancer, have an operation, have chemo, and then hope for the best outcome. And I think after that, it was like an adrenaline kept me going. I was planning my wedding. So that was the following year. And I think planning my wedding got me through that first year. It kind of distracted me. And it wasn't until after the wedding that I just sort of collapsed into a heap. And that's when my mental health really suffered. I couldn't work out. And like you both have said, it's hard to accept that there's not a cure for this cancer. And I think that's when it kind of hit me, after about a year after diagnosis. I think I was just, do you know when people say it's like you're in the room but you're looking down on yourself? That's kind of
out
how,
of body.
that's kind of how I was, just like in auto mode. So it was probably a good year after diagnosis that I think it hit me, and I thought, oh, and that's kind of when I went looking for the group, and thankfully found you all. So
isn't that amazing? Because that's similar to me. It was about a year after when I finished, I had a year of treatment, and it was after because I was focused on treatment, I was doing something about it. And then when all of that finished, I actually thought about it, and that's when I crumbled as well. So, Paul, I'm really interested to hear about your diagnosis story and
Sure.
how you went.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Nick. I was just going to say though, Nicola, I know you have a fantastically supportive husband, Andy. So
Yeah, definitely.
maybe we can explore this in a bit, but how all of our kind of husbands or friends, family responded, because I
Yeah.
guess we all have different relationships and different experiences with that. But I think we were all very lucky. Me later, because I was single when I was diagnosed. But it's really important, I guess, who's around you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
my experience was, so it was 2017. I've always been tried to be super healthy, eat well, exercising. So I'm in complete shock, relatively young for this kind of cancer as well, at
Mm.
35. And I remember I was at the gym, but I was having like a regular massage that I get with one of the masseuses there, a sports therapist who was really
Yeah.
great. And yeah, just in one of the routine, I think I was having massages once every 2 weeks or something. And he found like a lump at the top of my leg, kind of in my groin, just below my groin area. And he said, I'm not too happy about that. It doesn't feel great. I think you should get it checked out.
Mm.
Um, didn't really think anything of it. I thought, there's no cancer in my family. I look
Mm.
after myself. It's probably something benign. And so I booked in for a test. Went to see the GP at first. He referred me to a specialist, and they gave me a needle biopsy. And the doctor was so lovely, but so cavalier, but like in a reassuring way. He was like,
Mm.
"I'm 90% convinced there's nothing to worry about." So
Yeah.
of course I was completely reassured and relieved and thought, "Oh, great, okay." And then I think it was 2 weeks later, and I was single. I was living alone in this tiny little apartment in London, um, and I knew I had the results due on the Friday, 2 weeks later, and the doctor was going to call me. And it got to like 5 o'clock, and he hadn't called, and then I was getting a bit anxious, so I called
Mm.
up, and I don't know if he'd forgot or he was just behind. It's very difficult in NHS, in terms of waiting lists and all the work they've got to do.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, sorry, let me just check the computer," live while I was on the phone to him. And he was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, this is follicular lymphoma." And I was like,
Oh, wow.
"Sorry, what?" And he told me right then and there. He did, to his kind of credit, say, "Do you want me to tell you over the phone?" And then I was like, "Well, you might as well, because
Yeah,
you've effectively
then,
just
don't
told
you?
me." So I've just
Yeah.
lost my headphone. 1 second. And I said yes, and then he told me, and obviously I went very numb, and I felt so alone. I had friends around me and stuff, kind of in the area, but I completely regressed. Like, I mean, I went home to my mum basically, and she looked after me for a
Yeah.
couple of weeks. But before that, um, I went to the gym that night. I was like, what the hell do I do with myself in this moment? Called all my
Mm.
friends, called my mum, spoke to my sister. I just had to do something physically
Mm.
and get out of the house. I couldn't be on my own. So I just went to the gym and just wandered around in a daze. I went to the bathroom and cried, walked back in the rain, kind of echoing, my mood. It was kind of useful because I just bawled on the way home. And then I called a friend to come and spend the night with me and just hold me
Yeah.
fundamentally and just kind of look after me. I really needed it. And I'm quite an independent person and quite good at handling stuff on my own. And it's interesting that I did regress and I needed my friends to be there overnight. And I got the next train, the early train the next day. And just, yeah, spent those 2 weeks with my mum, you know, talking by the fire, thinking about the future. Am I going to die? Am I going to see my nephew
Mm.
being born? Will I meet somebody? Because by that, I was still single. Um, really difficult time. But then, similar to what you said, Nicky, there was this kind of impulse, this impetus in you to action, which I think
Mm.
you had the same, Nicola, with your wedding to focus on.
Mm.
And I was living in this. It was nice, but this tiny little effectively a bed sit, or no, not a bed sit, like a studio apartment. Um, and I'd been working as a therapist for a while and in the NHS, but I'd started a private practice that I was renting a room in centre of London. And I had this idea that I wanted to move to a nicer apartment that I could see my clients in person in a nice area, nice neighborhood. And that was my focus. So I moved to this really lovely flat for the first time, a nice place, made this beautiful room to see my clients, and just buried myself in that kind of setup, really. And it was so exciting. And I guess it was a healthy level of denial and avoidance just while I was getting my head around it all. I
Yeah.
didn't read the whole packet of information I got from the doctor, which from the Macmillan Centre where I was, being diagnosed and to be treated or consulted with. Just left it on the shelf. Didn't really want to think about it. I knew it was watch and wait. That's what they told me after, again, a gap of another 3 weeks, actually. And then my mum came down with me and they told me, okay, this is what it is. It's indolent. It's like living with a long-term health condition for many people, which was reassuring, and you may not need treatment for a long time. And that was 7 years ago. I mentioned that I've just had treatment, which I will come back to another time. But it it was really scary. But I think one of the major impacts for me was that I met Carlos, my husband, like 3 months later. And I think I was in such a different headspace. It shifted something within me, I think, maybe an ability to let someone in or to kind of embark on this different stage of life. And he turned up and completely accepted it and was a wonderful support from the very beginning. So yeah, complete blindsided, big shock, took some time off, regressed, rebuilt, and then actually it kind of kicked me up the bum a little bit in terms of relationships and my professional career. So yeah, that was my initial diagnosis story.
Wow, it's really interesting. And you bring up a really good point where it really does put things into perspective, doesn't it? I did a webinar a couple of years ago and I titled it Why I'm Grateful for My Diagnosis. And I know that sounds so weird, but I really am so grateful because my kids were so young at the time, and I really truly feel I would have parented my kids completely different and not been as present as what I have been since my diagnosis. Yeah, and I've just because when I was initially diagnosed, they gave me a prognosis of 10 years with treatment, and that really stuck with me. And all I could think of was, how old are my kids going to be in 10 years? I held on to that number and I really honestly thought I had 10 years left to live. And I started to mourn the rest of my life and started, it really affected my mental health trying to deal with that. But then I started to get into my research and learn about health. And before I was diagnosed, I didn't consider what I ate, or I didn't barely even exercised. I didn't look after myself at all. And it really jolted me to this point where I really need to look after myself. I have to be there for my kids. My ultimate goal is to become a grandparent and watch my grandchildren grow. So that's the ultimate goal. And I just became so determined. I'm going to do this. I don't care what anyone says. But it did take me a good 2, 3, 4 years to really let go that prognosis.
Right.
But I'm so grateful for even my lessons that I've learned from getting that prognosis and what it did to put things into perspective for me. So yeah, it's really interesting to hear that from you as well, Paul. Nicola, did you feel something like that? Like, is there anything good that came out of it?
Yeah, I think it does sound really strange to say you're grateful for the diagnosis. And I think for someone that's not in our situation would think that's very weird. But that's kind of how I think now. It's like, looking back, I needed something to kind of shake me up and make me realize that I probably wasn't in a good place before, and I wasn't looking after myself. Yeah, and definitely my outlook's massively changed. And I think it has only been in the last probably year, 2 years. So it was similar to you. It wasn't just overnight, you've got cancer, and then the next day my outlook changed. It was quite a build up. And I think for me as well, I really struggled. So I've mentioned I got diagnosed and then I had my wedding. And then 6 months after my wedding, the pandemic hit. And obviously we all had to shield, and I really, really struggled in the pandemic. I think I was on the floor with my mental health. And it has taken me a good couple of years to sort of crawl back from that. Yeah, and I'm now I'm studying to be a garden designer, which is what I've always wanted to do, but kept telling myself, that's not a job. You can't do that, really. You have to do something else. And yeah, I'm probably the happiest I've been in a very long time now, which at the time of diagnosis, I thought that would have been a really strange thing to say, that I was the happiest now. But yeah, I'm definitely grateful for it did make me sit up and sort of think about things. So yeah.
Seems like quite a common story in in our experience. I mean, obviously it's not everyone's experience, and it's often very difficult. You've heard about some of our experiences, but yeah, it can trigger something in us, I think, like a courage maybe that was not quite there, or like you say, putting things in perspective, Nicky. I was wondering, did either of you make any changes? You said, Nicky, that you changed your diet and your exercise. I know you got into all sorts of things, you know, the pole dancing, super exercise, and obviously your profession now.
My career.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, completely. I was a mortgage broker before this.
And now you are,
I'm a clinical nutritionist.
Which is incredible.
Doing exactly what I want to do. So, and that's what gave me the courage to take that leap. I didn't finish high school. No, I didn't. No one expected me to go to university.
Just noticing all the degrees on the wall behind you. Sorry.
Yes, and I display it proudly, because it was one of those things where I've never expected to go to university, and it was actually Nicola that after speaking with her, she gave me the courage to actually apply. The first time I met her, I went home and I started just enrolled in university, and I didn't even think I could, because I didn't finish high school, but I realised, because I had my diploma in mortgage broking, that got me into university. So yeah, and I actually loved it. I remember someone saying to me before I enrolled, make sure you do it and enjoy the journey. Don't do it just for that piece of paper at the end. And I really took that on board, and I did it like sort of part-time and full-time, but mainly part-time, because I didn't want to put that pressure on myself. I was still mortgage broking majority of the time, but I found I excelled. I graduated with distinction because I was so interested in the subject and I was fascinated by it. And my analytical mind really helped with chemistry. So it all sort of tied in together. And now I'm just doing what I love, and and I want to focus on cancer patients and even research. I love getting into research and statistics and things like that, and seeing, I want to eventually be able to help in a way through working in cancer research one day, hopefully. That's my plan, my dream and my goal. And it really does put things into perspective and changes things for the better, I believe.
Right. I guess how can it not? It's such a transformational kind of experience and as we were saying before, because it is slow growing, and the watch and wait element for some of us, you and I, Nicola, you didn't have that experience, Nicky, and that'll be maybe a future podcast subject, I think, because it's so important. But the uncertainty, you have to do something with it to take control. So I think it does give us this this kind of push. There's a kind of theoretical concept, post-traumatic growth, which I think kind of fits. It's something that comes out of trauma or illness, and a lot of cancer patients, I think, talk like this. Although I want to stress that there's no expectation for you to feel like this if you don't, but there is an opportunity for growth, I think, if you can see past the appointments and the scans and the fear of the future. It's really difficult, but I think here we want to focus on mental health, wellness, nutrition, exercise, and we're Nicky and I are experts in those kind of areas, mental health and nutrition, but we want to cover all sorts of things and get special guests on with other expertise,
Absolutely.
other members of the community.
Yeah, that's it. Any members of the community that want to get involved, it's theFLcommunitypodcast at gmail.com. So yeah, if anybody wants to be involved, or if you have any ideas for upcoming episodes, things that you want to talk about, or even any questions, because I think in future episodes would like to read out some community member questions and based around nutrition or mental health or just as FL patients ourselves.
Questions for us. If you've got any things you're curious about us, our job as moderators, our experiences, but beyond that, just topics for us to cover in future episodes. And as you say, Nicky, even to appear as guests and tell your stories. We really want to kind of center the community here. The community is the kind of heart of it, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. And I also want to bring up the Follicular Lymphoma Foundation. I think I'm very proud to say that, I think our FL community living with follicular lymphoma has been a driving force for Nicola Mendelsohn to start the Follicular Lymphoma Foundation, and they have just been a huge support to our community and also our podcast. So we'd like to get the FLF involved in the podcast as much as we can, and so we'll be able to provide updates as we go. And also, I just want to mention that the website, theflf.org, is the website for the Follicular Lymphoma Foundation. Particularly if you're newly diagnosed, check out the Your Support Hub. There's a wealth of information. All the previous webinars are all there. Members' stories, or patient stories. So if you do want to share your story, I highly encourage it because it can be so helpful to particularly newly diagnosed. So there's a library of patient stories on that Your Support Hub, and there's also a link there if you'd like to share your own story. So I highly encourage you to do that. Great.
That's really great, Nicky. So we've been talking about our initial diagnoses, and I know that you, Nicky, have had some recent news that I think you want to share with the community.
Yes, I've been keeping it a little quiet, and I wanted to wait until I could actually talk, on video. What's been happening with me? So as you know, I was diagnosed in 2014. I was put straight into a clinical trial, and I've been very, very grateful to have a very long remission. But in the last 6 months, I've come out of that and I've started to notice some more lumps come up. So it is. I am in a process of relapsing, but I am on watch and wait. So I'm grateful that this time around I've been given the opportunity to go on watch and wait. And it's really interesting how it all did come about, because I was experiencing the first half of this year has been, very difficult for me. I've had some very close people in my life fall ill with cancer, different cancers, very serious, and it's affected me. I think it put a lot of stress and emotional stress on me. I'm not saying that's what caused it, but I think there's a correlation there where stress can, could have triggered it. Who knows? We're not medical scientists who can confirm that, but I think that sort of may have triggered something. And so I noticed some lumps popping up on my neck. I've got a big one in my groin. So I went and had a CT scan. So we found that it is widespread. So non-bulky, which I'm grateful for. So it's not affecting any of my organs at this stage. I have the biggest one I have is 3.5 centimeters in my gut. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm just being monitored at the moment. I have been, I'll be honest, I've been struggling with my mental health in the first half of this year, and decided I needed a bit of a break. So I took myself off to Bali about a month ago, just for, a bit of me time and sort of reflection. And I went and visited a couple of Balinese healers while I was there, which is really quite interesting. So it gave me a lot of clarity, helped me sort of understand where I'm at, and felt so much lighter when I came home.
Yeah.
So it was just something that I really needed, just to sort of put things into perspective, because it is as scary. It wasn't as scary as the initial diagnosis, because I knew that, it was always going to be there in the background, and one day it was going to come back. But now my focus, because I know a lot more about nutrition and lifestyle, and I've sort of been focusing on that over the last 10 years. My focus now is going to be my mental health. I'm going to really focus on trying to reduce stress and focus on being happy and just loving life.
I'm so sorry to hear that, because I can imagine what that news must feel like, given we've been there. It sounds like you're in a better place now than you were. I think Bali did you the world of good, and know that we're here to support you, and the community is here, and that we all have very different experiences in this moment. I think previously, you and I, Nicola, were on watch and wait, and I've just completed treatment, and you were in remission, and now you're not. So we're all in different places, and it just shows how things can change and shift, and that this is a lifelong condition to manage. But yeah, we wish you all the best in this moment.
We do,
Nicky. Yeah, but I know that you're in the best place now to manage it from where you were, with all the information, the wealth of expertise that you now have, and the family and friends support that you have, and us. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys. I definitely feel, it is very different this time, but I feel a lot more supported. I know where to look for the information that I need, and I'm so grateful for that. So I'm grateful for you guys. So thank you so much.
Sure. So I think we've reached the end of our inaugural podcast. That's a word, right?
Yes, first episode 1. It's exciting. I'm excited for future episodes. So
so the next episode is going to be Watch and Wait, which is very appropriate. We can talk a lot about that, all of us, I'm sure. So we'll look forward to doing that. And we do have a motto to end the episode on, if we can remember it and get it right.
Have to bear with us. It's in some feedback if it's a bit too cheesy.
Let's go with the cheese.
Or if you have any better ideas, email us at theFLcommunitypodcast@gmail.com. All right. So, and remember, here at the FL Community Podcast, our motto is
from surviving to thriving,
one story at a time. Yay!
That was so good. I like yours at the end, Paul. The voice was one story at a time.
Coming soon.
To a cinema near you.